Hello, Packers fans. It's time for a new edition of the Pack Attack Cast. Hope you guys had a great holiday, and it's time for our pre-game show for Packers versus Ravens. The game will be Saturday night. Let's start out with the big news that came out this afternoon. Jordan Love has been ruled out for this week's game. I think this is really a precaution to make sure he's 100% since the Packers are already in the playoffs. Could Jordan have played if the playoffs were still on the line? I'm not sure. Generally, medical staffs are very cautious with concussions, and they like to make sure that the player is truly at 100% because it's not just recovering for this concussion. If the more time a player has before they take another hit, it drastically increases the chances that there will not be a second concussion. So, with this decision not to play Jordan Love on Saturday, that means Jordan will have a full 15 days in between when he was hit and knocked out of the game to when he could possibly play against the Vikings. Now, I do think the Packers will not want Jordan Love to go into the playoffs rusty. So I do believe that Jordan Love will play in the final week of the season, at least for half of the game, because it's good to knock that rust off. So you might see a situation, especially if the Packers don't have anything to play for in week 17, that maybe Jordan Love plays a half instead of the full game, just to get some rust knocked off and get ready for the playoffs. We'll see what happens. So that's what we know. Jordan Love will not play in the game on Saturday. Projected to start right now is Malik Willis. He has an injury to his throwing shoulder. He's had limited participation multiple days this week. So the question is Malik Willis healthy enough to start? Right now, the plan is for Malik Willis to start this game on Saturday, and I think that will be the case barring a setback. But we have to keep in mind Malik Willis does have an injury to his throwing shoulder, so if that gets aggravated in the game, we might see Clayton Tune, who will probably be called up from the practice squad as the backup for this game, in the lineup for the Packers. So that's something we're going to have to watch very closely. Hopefully Malik Willis is healthy and he's able to make it through the whole game. And of course the Packers win, which would be very big because right now there's still a legitimate chance, it's small, but a legitimate chance that the Packers can beat the Ravens and the Vikings, because the Vikings team I saw beat the Lions is not really a threat. That was more the Lions, in my opinion, defeating themselves with turnovers. And I don't think that Vikings team has much of a chance of beating the Packers if they have their starters in the game. Now, if the Packers have nothing to play for and they pull all of their starters, then it is possible that that team will win Week 18. So we're going to watch that very closely. So again, Malik Willis will be starting on Saturday. I feel very confident in Malik Willis. He has shown consistently that he has done very well when thrown into the game. He's also had 2 starts where he's 2-0 for the Packers. And I think a lot of this is also not only to rest Jordan Love and make sure he's 100%, but also you want to make this decision a couple days before the game so Malik Willis can get comfortable with the idea of having the start. You can look at the game plan for the game and say, okay, this is what Malik Willis does well, and we're going to shift some of the game plan for the game against the Ravens based on Malik Willis's skill sets. It's also a great opportunity for Malik Willis. So Malik Willis is not why we lost to the Bears, and I've talked about it a couple times, not going to talk about it again. But Malik Willis is playing right now, not only for the Packers, but also for an opportunity to possibly be a starting player next year. And reports came out today that there are multiple teams that are considering Malik Willis for a possible starting quarterback position next year. There are teams that are desperate at quarterback that could do much worse than Malik Willis. So Malik Willis has a lot to play for in this game. So look for Malik Willis to play within the system. He always does a great job of not overreaching. But Malik Willis has a lot of reasons to be very aggressive and successful in this game against the Ravens. Other news that came out today, the Green Bay Packers have placed Christian Welch on injured reserve. He will be out for the rest of the year. Technically, he could come back in the playoffs, but I don't know if we're going to bring a special teams player off of the practice off of injured reserve when there's other players that we could probably use that call up for. So most likely Christian Welch is out for the rest of the year. Aaron Banks, neck and illness, and Savion Williams have been downgraded to questionable due to illness for tomorrow's contest with the Ravens. So let's take a look at the rest of the injury report, because I think a lot of the players that are questionable for this game are probably not going to play. And it's a good thing for the Packers because, number one, we can work on our depth, get some other players into the rotation for a game. But more importantly, the Packers are in the playoffs. We want certain players to be as close to 100% before the playoffs. So let's take a look at that injury report right now. And I'm going to try to read the tea leaves and try to figure out who's actually going to play in this game or not. So let's take a look at that. Let's share that injury report. I can't believe it is week 17, and we have done preseason games for 3 preseason games and now 17 regular season games. So that's 20 preseason games, pregame shows that we've done, which is a great accomplishment for this relatively new channel. So really appreciate the support and you guys coming back to see what we have to say. All right, Aaron Banks, neck and illness. In my opinion, Aaron Banks will probably play if he can play in this game. Because if it's just an illness, which seems to be the primary issue, according to Gutekunst, then Aaron Banks needs to play because the Green Bay Packers' depth on the offensive line is very thin, and we're going to talk about that in a minute. Of course, Jordan, I'm going to just talk about key players here so we can breeze through this. Jordan Love, out for the game. We already talked about that. Bo Melton is questionable. He did not practice all week. So I'm going to go ahead and say Bo Melton will probably not play in this game. Sean Ryan, knee illness, did not practice on Thursday, but did limited practice on Thursday and Friday. I think if Sean Ryan can play in this game, if the illness is sufficient that he can play, I expect Sean Ryan to play in this game. If not, we're really going to have to dig deep in the well and figure out who's going to play center. And with a backup quarterback, the last thing you want to do is have a backup quarterback and a backup center. That is where you can end up with turnovers, and that's not what we want to see in this game. So I think Sean Ryan will try to make a go unless he's too sick to play. Zach Tom, I believe, will not play in this game. He's listed as questionable, but again, the Packers are in the playoffs. Zach Tom is one of your most important offensive linemen. He is going to probably be out for this game, so maybe they get him in with Jordan Love in the game against the Vikings so they can knock some rust off. But I do believe Zach Tom will not play in this game. Christian Watson, I did not practice due to illness. There's definitely a bug going around the locker room. I think if Christian Watson can play, he will play. because he's a critical part of the offense. Even if he's at 75-80% due to an illness, I still think Christian Watson is a key part, especially with Malik Willis as the starting quarterback. So I think Christian Watson will likely play in this game. Evan Williams, limited practice all week. I'm going to tell you right now, Evan Williams will not play in this game. I will bet $100 that Evan Williams will not play in this game. I still go back to wondering if some of the secondary issues wouldn't have happened last week if Evan Williams had been able to play, but here we are. John Williams is out, not a big deal. Savion Williams, I think if he's still dealing with an injury, they will probably pull Savion Williams and get him healthy for the stretch run in the playoffs. He still has a foot injury, so it makes sense. If it's only an illness and he feels better, then they probably will let him play. But if it's a combination of the foot and the illness, then I think Savion Williams will be out this week. And Malik Willis is questionable, but he had limited practice 2 of the 3 days this week. He is questionable. I think Malik Willis will be able to play in this game. Now let's look at the Baltimore Ravens. Defensive tackle Tavern Bryan will be out for this game. Jay Higgins, unspecified. This is interesting. He practiced all 3 days, and then he has unspecified. So I don't know if there's like a personal issue or something that could keep him out of the game. We're going to have to watch that closely. And Lamar Jackson did not practice all week. He is listed as doubtful. I'm going to tell you right now, I don't think Lamar Jackson is going to play in this game. It's extremely unlikely. He's their most important player on offense. They have very little to play for right now. They have a small 5% chance of getting into the playoffs right now. And Lamar Jackson is their franchise player in more ways than one. So I expect Lamar Jackson not to play this week. Okay? So let's look at the matchup for this game. All right. So let's look at overall power rankings. Okay? Packers are 10th. Ravens are 21st. On defense, Packers are 14th. Ravens are 16th. On offense, the Packers are 3rd. The Ravens are 17th. Now, both teams are going to have their backup quarterback. So I'm going to say that's a wash and say that the Packers obviously have a significant advantage on offense in this game. Strength of schedule played, Packers have had a harder strength of schedule. Both teams like to run the ball around 45 to 43% and pass 54 to 56%. Now let's look at the quarterback comparison. Now PFF agrees with me and says that Huntley is going to be the starter for this game. So we've got a matchup of backup quarterbacks, Huntley versus Willis. Huntley doesn't really have the physicality, I think, that Willis has at this stage in his career. So I think Willis has more ability as a runner. But I do expect the Packers to try to protect Willis as much as they can by trying to avoid, for example, called runs for the quarterback because he does have a bad shoulder. Malik Willis still will run occasionally, but I think the Packers will try to emphasize to Willis that he needs to try to avoid running if possible. Big time throw percentage. That really is in the Packers' favor right here. Especially look at this stat here. Passer rating under pressure. Malik Willis is 158.3 under pressure. He either finds a way to throw the ball or he runs to make a first down, more likely than not. So Malik Willis being much better under pressure is going to be a big advantage for the Packers in this game. Big time throw percentage. Malik Willis throws at a 5% clip of big time throw percentage. That's actually pretty close to Jordan Love. So that in my opinion, means that Matt LaFleur can keep the playbook fairly open and try to take some shots down the field because Malik Willis does have the arm to do it. Less so for Huntley, so expect the Ravens to really lean on the run in this game and try to protect Huntley from himself. Power ranking, basically, Willis is ranked 17th, the Packers and Huntley is 25th. So again, I think the backup quarterback duel really will go to Malik Willis. Now, it's important to note that Josh Jacobs is finally off the injury report this week. So I think Josh Jacobs is going to be run early and often in this game to try to establish the run against Travis Henry on the other side. We're going to have two running backs trying to really control the game, and that's going to be probably the key to the game. All right, let's take a look at some matchups now in this game. Let's start out with the Packers on offense, 2 tight end. Now, we know the Packers only have 2 healthy tight ends going into this game. So look for the second tight end in this game to probably be a offensive lineman if the Packers are running 2 tight end personnel. So we've got, for the Ravens defense, solid safety play. So the Packers are going to want to try to use the short and intermediate sections of the field to take advantage of the cornerbacks who have really struggled. Humphrey and Wiggins have both struggled in coverage in this game. So short and intermediary to try to avoid the safeties who are actually the better part of the secondary. So we're going to watch that closely. Hamilton has been injured lately, so we're going to have to see if he plays. All indications are that he's going to be playing in this game, and he's the number 1 rated safety. So we want to try to stay away from these safeties and do the short and intermediate areas of the field where we have a significant advantage against the corners. Looking at their defensive line, Van Noy and Jones are mid-level linebackers, rushing linebackers. Simpson and Smith are solid coverage linebackers. So we're going to have to see what happens there. But again, the strength of the secondary for the Ravens is definitely the safety. So we want to take advantage by running the ball and also short and intermediate passing game, which is really where Willis will make his hay in this game, more likely than not. Looking at the Packers, if Watson plays, he should be able to get free early and often. And if Dobbs plays, Dobbs is expected to play, so he should be able to get free early and often in this situation. Wiley is back off concussion, but I do expect Musgrave to be lined up with another offensive lineman in 2 tight end sets. The Packers have done that a lot. Malik Willis should be solid in this game, and Josh Jacobs is the 3rd rated running back. So the Packers might actually have the running game advantage in this game over the Ravens. So we're going to watch that very closely. As you can see, PFF has already slotted Jordan Morgan in as the starter at right tackle. Anthony Belton will continue to play right guard. Sean Ryan will hopefully play center. Aaron Banks will hopefully play guard. And Walker will play left tackle. And I would argue that this is a neutral matchup between these teams. I think the Ravens defensive line versus the Packers offensive line, it's going to be a neutral matchup. It's going to be a wash, but all the Packers need to do is try to give Josh Jacobs an opening and let him do the work, as he is an exceptional guy at making more out of what is blocked in front of him. So if the Packers go to 3 wide receiver, we'll put the Ravens in the nickel. What the Ravens do here is they try to bring Hamilton into the slot, and they bring in Starks, which is also a very solid safety, to fill in for Hamilton. So 3 wide receiver sets don't necessarily benefit the Packers here, because I would say Hamilton is a better slot defender than Jaden Reed is as a receiver. So I don't expect the Packers to do 3 wide receivers outside of third and long situations. So again, we should see a lot of big personnel for the Packers as they try to run the ball. Let's switch over to the Packers on defense. We'll do base personnel, Ravens, 2 tight ends. Looking at our safeties, we've got McKinney and Williams. Williams will probably be out of this game, so I expect Bullock to also play as he played last week, and Williams will be out of this game. Nixon against Flowers, that definitely favors Flowers, but we have to offset that with the fact that they're going to be using a backup quarterback. So I do expect this to be a positive matchup, Nixon versus Flowers, when they're matched up against each other. And we're going to have to watch that very closely. But I think Huntley is limited as a quarterback, so I'm not overly worried. But Zay Flowers is definitely the wide receiver that can make big plays for the Ravens. Bateman is more of a possession receiver, so I think whoever's matched up against Bateman should be able to cover him up pretty successfully. So it's going to be about Zay Flowers. Now, the Ravens do have 2 solid tight ends in Andrews and Likely. So just like last week, where the Bears really focused on using their tight ends as much as possible, we're probably going to be seeing a similar scheme for the Ravens. The Ravens are going to be looking for short and intermediate passes with Flowers and the tight ends and try to make yards after the catch. Then, of course, we have Travis Henry. He's not the player that he used to be. He's the 28th rated running back. So, again, I think the running back advantage actually goes to the Packers in this game. But the Packers are 100% going to try to limit Henry in this game, because that is going to be the linchpin that makes the Ravens successful. Basically, with a backup quarterback, we want to force that backup quarterback to try to make plays to win the game. So I would argue that that really is a big advantage for the Ravens. Now, the Ravens definitely have a better offensive line than the Packers currently have defensive line. So the Ravens are going to lean into the run as much as possible, and the Packers are going to try to limit big plays in the running game and force Huntley into passing on third and long. Let's look at 3 wide receiver for the Ravens, and we'll go to nickel defense for the Packers. And this really does favor the Packers pretty significantly. Now, again, you're probably going to have Bullard stay in at safety, and you're going to have Nate Hobbs probably come in as the cornerback here. That being said, they move Zay Flowers to the slot. They have Hopkins on the outside, and they have Bateman as the starting outside wide receiver. So I would argue 3 wide receiver sets actually benefit the Packers. So look for the Ravens to only go into 3 wide receiver if they're way behind in the game, or it's third and long and they don't have another option. So there are your matchups. Let's go to our predictions for the game. This is going to be an interesting matchup for the Packers. We've got the Ravens with their playoff hopes on the line. The Packers have already gotten into the playoffs. And we've got both teams with significant backups coming into the play. So it's going to be a very interesting game right now. My prediction for the game would be Packers 24 and Ravens 20. So I have the Packers winning by 4 points. The current spread, if you're interested, is Packers by 3.5. So I think it makes sense that the Packers are going to win by 4. Now it could be Packers 28, maybe Ravens 24, something like that. But my guess would be it's Packers 24 and Ravens 20 in this game for a comfortable Packer victory. That's my predictions. So how we're going to cover this game, what we're going to do right now is, our plan for right now is we're going to have our actives, inactives, that will be an hour and a half before the game. I will come on for a quick update on who's playing and who's not playing and how that will impact our prediction for the game. So I'll be on about an hour and a half before the game, and we'll give you an update on who's in and who's out for both teams. But I do believe the Packers can win this game by 4 points. My final prediction is Packers 24, Ravens 20. Enjoy the game. If you don't see our update tomorrow, and I'll have a post-game show probably Sunday morning after the game. As always, go Pack Go and enjoy the game. We only have a few games left, so let's enjoy every snap we can get from the Packers. Talk to you tomorrow.